I wish I would have talked more to my grandfather Joe, right here. My grandfather Joe, who lived, my grandmother died probably in the 80s, about 82. He lived to be 92. He died at Eden Home. I wish I would have talked more to him to tell me about his parents, his dad, his siblings. Where did he come from? All those things that now, I wish I would have known and I wish I would have asked. So I didn't. So now my mom comes from the Campos family. My great-grandfather, Atanasio Campos, I actually got to meet him. He actually created the Monterrey Cafe back in the 40s. And my mom has a story, and I can't remember it. It was about trying to get back to Mexico, and they didn't have a whole lot of money. And with the little bit of money, they ended up staying, and he built the Monterrey Cafe. The Monterrey Cafe is right off of 35 on the west side of New Braunfels, kind of as you're leaving New Braunfels. So my understanding, it's still owned by the Campos family, but it's managed by other people. He and his wife lived in a little house behind the Monterrey Cafe, and I remember as a little girl going with my grandmother and visiting them. So I'm glad I did get to know them. Yes. And this is his son. His son is Manuel. One of his sons was Manuel, which was my grandfather. Manuel married this gorgeous lady. Her name is Luisa. Luisa came from the Gaitan family. So they married, and they had 2 children, these beautiful kids. This little baby right here is my mom at 6 months, and my Tío Manuel, we call them Tío Meme, and they had those 2 children. My mom is now 88. My uncle died at about 32 when he was active duty. He had leukemia. He died in Hawaii. But he's buried here as well. And actually, I had a picture somewhere of his, right here. This is his gravestone. Manuel Gaitan Campos died in 1962. He was born in 1927. This is the lady that he married. When he was in active duty, he was stationed in Japan and married Michiko. And they had my cousin Ida and her brother Glenn. They live in San Jose, California now.
Is that this one?
No, actually, this young man, my sister Sylvia, I had another picture. She's the little tiny girl right here. This is my sister Sylvia. This picture was taken in Seidel. My sister Sylvia will be 70 years old in January. Sylvia went to Kenya, just like the rest of us did, met this young man, Benito Morales. Benny was drafted, went into the Marines. They were married September the 7th. Soon after they were married, he was drafted, went into the Marines. Soon after boot camp, he was whisked away to Vietnam. Wasn't even there a week. He was killed by a mortar shell. 19 years old, which was about the average age of most of our servicemen killed in Vietnam. She was 8 months pregnant with her first child. And I was 12 years old. My memory of that, whether it was right or wrong, is the memory of a 12-year-old. Waiting, it seemed like a month waiting for his remains to be returned. It just seemed like, and maybe it was because there's so much going on. And being accompanied by another Marine. Morales Funeral Home, the services were held there. Morales Funeral Home was the funeral home that provided the service probably to most, if not all, our Hispanic population here in New Braunfels. They were located on Common Street. Actually, the Moraleses were compadres to my grandfather and grandmother. So my sister's 8 months pregnant. She's burying her Marine husband of 19 years old. She was notified on their date of their first anniversary, September the 7th. First anniversary. He was killed September 7th. Their anniversary was September 10th, and she was notified on their first anniversary of his death. 2 Marines came to the door, and she said as soon as she saw them walking up the sidewalk, she knew. So he's also buried here in a local cemetery. They had a little girl named Amy. Sylvia and Amy came to live with us. So Amy grew up as our little sister, and she's really my niece. Amy ended up growing up, going to college. She's now a teacher in Austin and doing well. But she saw my dad as her dad, but she calls him Grandpa, but that's her dad. And so when she sees pictures like this of her dad, and we try to, it doesn't have a lot of meaning to her because he's a picture. So that was my sister Sylvia, sister Irma. Irma never married. Irma's been the matriarch of our family. She's never married. She's been the nanny, caretaker, caregiver of every child that you see in this picture. Our family's grown. And even since this picture was taken in 2015, we've grown even more. But Irma's pretty much taken care of every kid in this picture. That has been her role in our family. Mom and dad, and my siblings. Our kids, their spouses, and their children. And in this picture, my youngest sister, Olga, wasn't there. So her and her son aren't in the picture. But I was the middle child. My sister Olga was the fourth of the girls. She was the fourth girl of my parents. Olga also went to Canyon High School. She had a very successful career, I guess. She graduated from Canyon High School. She went on to graduate from Princeton University. She's done some amazing things in her life. She's kind of settled back now. She resides in Houston. She has a son, Bo Basowitz. Olga, well, we were all raised Catholic growing up. She eventually married a gentleman from Jewish faith, and she converted. And she's been very active in her faith and continues to reside in Houston and very active in her temple. And so she just had the one child, Bo. Bo actually graduated from Vanderbilt not long ago, and he makes his life in Los Angeles. Irma never married, and like I said, she's kind of been the matriarch. My brother Rene, only boy out of 4 girls and the baby, he wasn't spoiled. So he had 4 sisters. I just loved all over him, and to this day, my grandmother, in Spanish the word is consentido. And I don't know, you don't want to say favorite, but that's kind of what consentido means. Always my grandmother's favorite, of course, because he was actually, his middle name is Rene Manuel, named after my grandfather and my uncle Meme. So had a special place in my grandma Luisa's heart. Rene married, he's got kids, he's got grandkids. Rene is well known in New Braunfels because coming out of Canyon High School, his first job was over at Kraft. He was a mechanic there. When Kraft, the business, closed, he went to work for Blue Bonnet. And that's the only other place he's ever worked. He's well known in the community. He's a master mechanic, and if anybody has a problem with their car, they go to Rene. So he knows what he's doing, that's for sure. He's got several kids. His youngest is about to graduate from New Braunfels High School in May. And so that's kind of my siblings. My parents are both retired now. They're living independently in their own home. My mom, after working so many years in the textile mill, did develop lung disease. The doctor has called it brown lung. He said, much like coal miners get the black lung, it's called brown lung when it's textile mill related. So she has suffered, her pulmonary diseases, but she's doing well. Again, they're able to live on their own. They're independent. They have a good life for their age.